All right, we're back on another episode of Salient Points. This one's number 106, as we just came to realize before we started recording here. This one's for April 11th, 2023. I'm Carlos Macias, the master of what, Dalan?
I don't know, the Caveman Club?
The Caveman Club, the master of the Caveman Club. All right, I mean, I'll take it. At least I understand what that means. Because you throw shit out there, it's like, is that Dungeons and Dragons? Is that some kind of political statement that Dalan wants me to say out loud? You're trying to trick me sometimes. But Dalan Quirkwood from Up in the Mountains, thank you for joining us, sir. I see you over there with your Kiss shirt. And you're looking very HD-ified, Dalan. So I appreciate
Mr.
that.
Quirkwood. Hey, I was HD last
Did I say Quirkwood? My bad, man. Kirkwood. Hey, you know what? How you feel like you have the case of the Mondays? I go to work and I'm taking like a class right now as well. The case of the Mondays are real, man. They're very real. But I feel like you're just going to work, Dalan, remotely, just chilling, rolling over onto your desk area. So I don't see where you get the case of Mondays.
I'm not just rolling out of my desk area. I'm currently sitting in my work office. You can see the monitor right here.
I get all that, but it's chill. Dalan Quirkwood, my bad, not Quirkwood. And we got Luis Mendez on. Well, I said it on purpose that time. Luis Mendez on the wheels of steel. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Of course.
We're back on the podcast. We are down a Deo. We're down to Dale, so Dale, we hope you're having fun out there. We should be having him back next week, but we'll get right into it. We'll get into this week's episode. That hasn't been too much, so I guess you can speak a little longer, Dale. You will find out that I will let Dalan speak. Instead, I will not cut him off as much just because there's no. Don't say no restrictions. There are restrictions. It's just. I'm giving you a little more room here. But we did have someone on YouTube, as you can make sure to go out there on YouTube and like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And we did have a new listener that he kind of gave us his opinion. His name is JDARG, J Darg, I'm assuming. So like we've said before, if you comment, it's a high likelihood you get on the show. He said, in my opinion, it hasn't failed at all because they want to sell is more than 5 million in 6 years, and the original only sold 100,000. He's talking about PlayStation VR, right?
Yeah, I know
sold 100,000 8N the first month, and Sony has said anything apart from they're on track to outselling the original headset. And Bloomberg always talk bad about PlayStation VR 2. They must got paid by Meta or something. And then he put like some crying emojis. I think we can kind of make out that, he's trying to say that Sony's going to be fine, right? But I'll put it to you quickly. I know it's your first time commenting, J-Darg, so we don't want to hit you up too hard. But it's like, dude, that shit is on a downward trend. I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, it's a little rough, but we appreciate it. As per usual. But we'll see. I mean, hey, maybe J-Darg at the end of this thing, he's going to be the one that ends up laughing, right? That he's like, I was right. The guys that we got comms, they don't know what they're talking about. Luis, what do you think about this man's statement here?
I mean, even let's say we take those numbers as if they were real, because I believe last year it was almost
if
like
they were real.
Like if they were actually on track. Not the numbers he gave, but if the numbers that Sony gave us for the PSVR 2 were true, which I believe were around 200K first month or something like that. Even if you take that and multiply it across and spread it across the 6-year span, they would only clear that number if they sold that amount of headsets every single month, basically. That's the pretty optimistic sort of point of view. Which I think most people understand that something comes out, it has a huge spike, and then it kind of dips down. Holiday season comes around, it spikes up, and then it dips down again.
Yeah.
So I don't see them getting to 5 million in 6 years. It might be more successful than the first one, but
even that, I think
on 2 were in the first one, so it's like it's not even.
I think and I think that's a little tough, man. Even just given like the software, given the price, given the fact that you have to buy a PlayStation 5. I don't know what the difference is between when the first PlayStation VR one came out and like the distance between the launch of the PS4, but I don't know. It feels like it was better. Like, so they were in a better place than they are now, and it kind of came out the gate like swinging, and then of course then they didn't have as much competition at the time either, right? Now you have the wireless Meta, which is like, to me, it's like, I don't know if it's necessarily technologically better, but it's wireless, man. If you're gonna play Beat Saber or something like that, you're gonna play it wireless if you have that option versus PSVR 2. Dalan, what do you think, man?
I think that for the number of units sold in regards to PSVR 1, I think it was around like 5 million units sold or something like that, and that was over a course of a number of years. But that was when that was when VR was a little hotter in the market. Right now, not very many people are talking about VR. The only VR that people are even talking about outside of Meta is PSVR 2, simply because it's a new system. But I still have the same issue with it, whether it succeeds or fails. The fact is that yes, it is on that downward trend, but people are going to buy the PSVR 2 and play like 2 games and then let it collect dust.
Or play for like 10 minutes and then just leave it there. Like I have. I just played it for like 10, 15 minutes and I haven't gone
Let
back.
me try it. And then you're like, all right, that was my $400 demo. Let me put it down.
I don't know when I'll get back. I'll get back to it at some point, but there's just too much good stuff out there. So it's like, why even go to PSVR when there's Resident Evil? And then we're having Breath of the Wild 2 coming out soon. I know it's not called that. It has its own title. But there's just so much stuff to play, so much good stuff to play that it's a little rough. But hey,
Well, yeah,
we'll see.
that and before the part of the appeal was that people already, because it was the PS4 was out for so long, people already had it. It was just like, oh, you mean I just need to buy that? And then like you don't have to. Now it's more you have to buy a PS5 and the headset, which is a huge investment when you could get something.
When there's no like real truly like killer app either, right?
No.
Like where it's like it's this amazing thing you got to try out, which I think the killer app originally was the fact that it just wasn't that prevalent, right? Like there wasn't as much VR out there, and it was like, this is cool, the VR itself is the killer app. But now it's like, well, we have it, it's out there, it exists, and now you're just
got
trying
like
to give
three
us more.
different versions of Oculus, 2 different versions of Vive, Meta, Facebook
Exactly.
goggles, whatever the heck you want to call them.
So we'll there's just plenty of options out there, but we'll see. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're, and like I said, anybody that wants to comment, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff, you're more than likely gonna get on the podcast. We'll go into the headline this week, and I believe, did all three of us watch the new Super Mario Brothers movie? Luis, did you watch it?
I didn't.
Okay, so I watched it and Dalan watched it. We'll talk a little bit about that. We don't necessarily need to get spoilery, right?
Right, no
A little secret scene tit for people out there, if you will. We'll throw it in here. But for now, this thing is kind of blowing up all over the place, right? It beat Sonic. That's one of the big things, of course, which Mario has always beaten Sonic as far as like the history of video games, right?
Hey, Mario owns Sonic.
Okay, well, it continues to. The people are over here talking about that Nintendo could earn more than $1 billion off of this film, which I think it's very likely. It's already made $400 million in its first week out. Sonic 2 and Uncharted, for example, took about 2 months to reach $400 million. So, you know, Uncharted is up there, but Sonic 2 is very successful. Sonic 2 had the 3-day record at $72.1 million. And then Mario beat it over 5 days, right? But averaged out, it still beat it about $1 million per day at $127.5 million over the course of 5 days. That's the Super Mario Brothers movie. It's apparently the biggest animated movie opening of all time. It's bigger than Frozen, Dalan. I know how much you love Frozen 2. Frozen 2 had the biggest opening at $358 million, so it has beaten that, right? So it's just and by the way, I don't know how your when you went, your showing of it, Dalan, was, but when I went, dude, the movie theater was packed. I have not seen a movie theater that packed in a good while. So this is definitely like, it's out of control. Just how big, as far as sales wise and tickets wise, right?
I was gonna say, luckily I went to an early morning showing, so not
too crazy.
And
now
it was on the middle of the weekday. I went like opening day to go see it early morning, and it was like a Thursday.
Oh yeah, when you even for the big movies, I know I've done if you ever do like the matinees, like a Thursday, Wednesday, you're like, is this really as big as people are talking about? I was like, yes, because people are gonna watch it on the weekend, right? For the most part, maybe a Friday evening or something like that. But I think like a Saturday in the middle of the day, it's gonna be a lot of people there. I'm pretty sure
you're gonna get a line.
I'm sure there's a lot of COVID that spread over this course of the Mario showings. But anyway, so Dale, I wish Dale had been on this week so he could defend himself. But he did put up a quote on Twitter, and I guess he'll just have to defend himself next week. But he did say, quote, "I'm so happy to see the Mario movie doing well. The movie was great, and it finally gave the Mario Brothers a film worthy of their legacy." We'll start off with the sales aspect of this, though, Dalan. As far as like the sales, this is surprising that this thing has basically blown everything out of the water.
No, it was absolutely no surprise. The moment I heard it was Illumination, I was like, nah, Illumination knows how to make animation. I am not surprised that they were able to gear this towards both kids and adults. I mean, if you watch any of the Despicable Me movies or Minions, you know that they know how to make an animated film.
Now, I feel like, don't get it twisted, Dan. I mean, they're still second tier compared to the big dog, right? To Pixar, right? Do they make better movies than Pixar, Dalan?
No. Pixar has more of a legacy when it comes to these types of movies.
Yeah.
And Illumination has made their movies super, super popular. But if you want to talk about quality, DreamWorks.
True. Yeah, so DreamWorks. Okay, well, that's one from left field. No, it's number one is Pixar. All right, number one is Pixar. But when you consider volume versus quality, it's volume either DreamWorks or Illumination. Quality, I feel like Pixar. Even though Pixar's they've been a little interesting lately. But I feel like through the course of their history, Pixar is just a little too amazing. But no, that's fair to say though, Dalan. I feel like even if that's subjective, right, Dalan? You can have your opinion on that, of course. But I feel I think you're right in the sense that they know kind of how to hit a target, how to make it a cute looking film, right? It looks cute as hell, right? Like it follows all the, like you were saying, all the minions and all that kind of stuff. Like, so I think they made it a very appealing movie. To that, people of course were gonna show up. Now that's on sales, that's on the sales wise, right? But then there's people out here talking about this is the best video game movie ever, right? They're already saying it's better than Sonic, and it's already like, if you saw the movie, it's like we might be getting an MCU, the second coming of an MCU, the Mario cinematic universe, which I'm sure we will, man. I mean, you don't hit these numbers and there's no considerations as far as like there's nothing else. We'll go to Luis and then maybe we could talk about the movie in a non-spoilery way, Dalan, for a moment or two. But Luis, what are your thoughts on this, man? Or as far as people are like, this is the best video game movie ever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know because I haven't seen it, but I did see some reviews and a lot of them were kind of, it made me feel like the average was somewhere in the middle, but I don't know. As far as a cash grab, sure. I mean, they kind of coincided with the launch of Super Nintendo World and Universal and all that, and they even had like pipes in front of the movie theater in City Walk. You could like photo op opportunities and stuff. So sure, I mean, cash grab ish, but MCU, of course, they're gonna do a Luigi's Mansion movie. They're gonna do an Olympics scenario or something like that. They're gonna get all into it, So with these numbers, there's no way they don't already have some meeting of like, okay, let's start putting sticky notes on the wall and let's see what sticks.
Let's see what's next. Let's see where we get going. Dalan, this is what I think I referred to it before, right, when we started, but this might be a little secret scene to it, right, for a minute or two. But what do you think, man? Is this the best video game movie ever?
That's
you can take a moment.
No, I will. Man, it's just one of those things where I have my nostalgia of other movies that were video game movies, and I love those movies. I mean, I love myself some 1995 Mortal Kombat. All right, I know it's cheesy. Yeah, I know it's cheesy, but it was an excellent freaking movie. It made way too much money, and everybody knows the damn thing to Mortal Kombat now because of it, or at least the live action movie.
Fair.
All right. Obviously, there was the original live-action Mario movie that definitely needed its own remake. So I will definitely say that
does it need its own remake? You don't need it. No,
it needs 10 feet tall. No, they were basically dinosaurs with anorexia. They were anorexic dinosaurs.
You mean remake or sequel?
Yeah, I'm thinking like a complete reboot or type sequel. You don't need to remake the original. That thing was not great.
Carlos, that's what this animated film was.
The animated thing was an animated thing, Dalan. I don't know if it was necessarily a remake of the original.
Carlos, Mario and Luigi were from Brooklyn. They somehow got sucked into a magical land where Luigi got imprisoned and Mario had to meet up with the princess.
Okay.
The whole time they're trying to save Mario. The whole time they're trying to save
I don't think anyone will ever mistake it that way, though. I honestly don't ever think anyone's going to be like, obviously, this is a continuation of the original, and it's like a reboot
No, not
of
a continuation.
Continuation / reboot.
Movie, and they said, you know what? The story was fine. We just got to execute it better.
It's got to be animated, right? But what's your thinking on the movie, Dan? You thought it was a pretty damn good adaptation of the video game or whatever it is?
I don't know about no Mario Cinematic Universe, but I could definitely say, without a doubt, there's going to be a part 2 to this movie because it was.
I'm not worried about that though, Dale. I'm worried about what you thought about this film. Don't worry about the cinematic universe or anything like that. What did you think about this one?
I'm stepping away from the. Yeah. I'm just saying I don't know about that. But as for the movie, it was good enough for me to say there's definitely going to be a part 2, and I'd love to see a follow-up.
Okay, what did you think about this one though, Dalan? Not if there's gonna be a sequel or not.
Why do you care about anything outside? I'm thinking it's so good that there's gonna be a part 2, and additionally, that I still feel like it was a rehash of the original. I just told you everything I thought.
I think it's funny. I think
it's good.
Yeah, I think it's funny though that yes, in a way because. The original was like that. They get sucked up into a magical, which is funny though, because you wouldn't think that, and that's kind of, I don't know. I'm conflicted about this movie. I don't know if I liked it that much. I don't think it has that good of a plot. I don't think they really rebooted from the original, and it's better, but just in the sense that it's better than like whatever crap they crapped out originally in 1993, right? Like it's just anything will be better than that, right? But it's definitely like I think it's not made for me, I guess. What I was thinking when I was watching, I was like, this isn't for me. It's cute, it's very attractive, it's for the kids, and definitely all the kids around me when we were watching it, they loved it, right? But my child, I asked her, she's 13 years old, even she might be aged out of it because she was like, it was okay. There's really no story. It's just a bunch of set pieces thrown at you, right? Like the whole time.
You're
and it's
kind of your nostalgia.
But to what end? Like to what end? Like what ultimately is kind of like the story of it, right? It's like, okay, they get sucked up and it's like, look at all this stuff. Look at all these little areas, and there's even like a cool little section where it's like, how do I fix it? It's like, oh, you blow on it. So I kind of like how they at least.
In the background.
So I kind of like how they at least make fun of the legacy of it and all that, and I think it's gonna. And I just hope they make a better movie, the sequels and whatever else they come up with, which I think they can.
This was the prequel to Donkey Kong Country. They had their own land.
But at the very least, I think the characters were well done, right? I think like Chris Pratt, like even after all the hullabaloo or whatever it is for Chris Pratt, that is like, oh, is he gonna do a good voice? Is he gonna not? I think he did fine. I think he did well enough to you where you didn't notice that it was terrible or not, right? And everybody was well placed. Even Seth Rogen, the fact that he kind of made Donkey Kong his own, because it really is Seth Rogen. In that character,
he's just like, I don't do voices. Yeah. You want me to do a voice? I'm not gonna do a voice.
Even the laugh, the typical Seth Rogen laugh is like, oh, I guess that's gonna be associated with Donkey Kong now. The Seth Rogen laugh, or the fact that Jack Black kind of has his singing into it, and he does the Peaches song or whatever. He went into it. He went into it, and I like how people on the internet are like, oh, that's gonna become like an Oscar nominated song for an original song.
Hey man. Yeah. Why does Donkey Kong sound like the Blob from Monsters vs. Aliens? I don't understand.
I don't know what to tell you. That's just what's happening. But yeah, it was okay. And obviously you get a sneak peek. Look, you guys stick around after the credits of the movie and you'll see that where they will go. You do get glimpses of where they're gonna go in the movie, right? But you never fully delve into that. So I think it established the world of Super Mario Brothers.
That's what it did. It established the world.
I think it's in a lot of ways kind of like how you establish the world in other Marvel movies, where it's like they're not that great. The origin stories are not that great, but they spawn off and they become something when there's actually like stakes involved, right? So it was cute. It was fun. It was an attractive movie. I'm not surprised that it's gonna kind of blow up.
I have the question for you, Carlos, and this is not a spoiler for the story or movie itself, but I will just ask you, who was your favorite character in the movie?
That's a good question. I think probably Donkey Kong. I think just Donkey Kong was. I think the role was filled like that. This is Donkey Kong. Otherwise, the Mario and Luigi thing was kind of interesting. The fact that you get into the backstory of who their family is also kind of interesting. Like, oh shit, okay, now this is Mario's family.
Dixie Kong, this is Lanky Kong. They're all there.
Yeah, so I think they did a good enough job at least to establish it. But I was like, the movie's okay. The movie was okay.
Hey man. Shining star for me was that blue star, Rosalina's blue star. Every time that thing showed up, I was wrong.
Oh yeah. Oh, that was my favorite. Yeah, that's true. I did love that one. And you could tell people in the movie theater were tripping. I was like, what? And I was like, I love
it. That's dark.
Look, real quick, and then after this next point, we'll just kind of...
Luis's eyebrow just raised, like, huh?
You'll find out, Luis, whenever you get around to watching the movie.
I wasn't listening to whatever you guys were saying.
He's like, no spoiler. We kept it spoiler free, but that's all right. So I just want to mention real quick, I did like that. I think people mess with Jeff Keighley a lot, but he does come up, and sometimes people make good points, I guess. But I think there's a lot of Jeff Keighley haters out there. By the way, I don't think I'm a Jeff Keighley hater. I just think some of the things he says are interesting. I'll leave it at that. But he did say in one of his tweets, he said, the biggest movie of 2023 so far, based on a video game. The biggest series of 2023 so far, based on a video game. Video games are just getting started. And that's from the Game Awards. And of course, who runs the Game Awards? Twitter. I would think Jeff Keighley, but let's keep it. The Game Awards said that. But I did like this comment from Alex Donaldson. He's from, he writes over there at RPG site. He tweeted, probably the biggest thing that shows the infancy of our art form is our desperate need for validation from other mediums, honestly. When we stop seeing stuff like this from major industry spokespeople, organizations will have truly made it. I just think that's, we've been fighting about this. We've been like, they need to adapt it into a movie. They need to adapt it into a show. It's like, yeah, but books are adapted. You adapt things from different sources, and it's like, fine. They both exist. So
the fact is, it does not always work. You could have a vision for it and that vision not come to life properly, and you may have failed. So it's just a matter of adapting properly.
Sure.
That's all.
Sure, but I think the bigger point here, Dalan, is that the video games industry doesn't need to compare it to, like, video games don't need to become movies to be respected. But it's kind of like, the commentary here is that the guy saying, like, Jeff Keighley's over here talking about, like, the video games are just getting started. Like, we've been here. Video games have been here.
You're late.
Whether they get adapted to something else or not doesn't matter. Video games are here. And they're bigger than movies, right? Like, I mean, the fact that Nintendo's over here, like, oh, maybe we get into this movie business. But these guys have been making all this money already, right? It's just now they have another avenue to go down with, right? That's a little easier for people to get into, right? But I thought that was interesting. So we'll see how this goes forward. The fact that games make money, we already know that just based on the video game form. But it's kind of interesting. I think we've already made it. We don't need to worry about being validation.
Where is my Smash Brothers series? Where is my Fire Emblem series?
You're talking about the movie? Oh, they're coming, dude. Based on the fact that Mario's making so much money, we're going to see follow-ups to that.
You want to see that live-action Metroid Prime?
Oh, I'm already down. But the point is, Dalan, I don't need to see it. I have it, and it's interactive form, and it's amazing, and it's the GOAT.
You can read all the notes, and you can see that he's coming for them, and they're scared.
Oh yeah,
all of that.
Oh, they're not.
You
Yeah, you can see
the
it.
hunter.
You played through all that, man. I don't need to see a movie. I would like to, sure, I'll watch it, but I don't need it. It's already there. We'll go into quick takes. I do have a quick quote from Shigeru Miyamoto, kind of keeping to the theme of Mario. He did say that designing Mario mobile games are quote unquote challenging. Quote, and then he says, quote, mobile apps will not be the primary path of future Mario games, end quote. And he also did mention that the next Mario game will revealed in a Nintendo Direct, which to me is like, I gotta watch every single Nintendo Direct now. Like, I need to just like be paying attention, but I don't know if I will. I'll probably just let Twitter tell me. What do you said? Thank God to the good thing they're not going down that path, because it was looking a little scary at one point before Super
they did that
Mario
Kart thing on the App Store, and I was like, oh man, I hope this isn't the way they decided to go with all their new games, or at least the ones that they try and put effort into. Because you had to pay for that Mario Kart game on the phone, and then that thing dropped off the map last time.
Well, they did Mario Kart, and they did what is it, Mario Run or something like that, Super Mario Run or whatever. So it's kind of like it's good in a way that Shigeru Miyamoto is like, we tried it. That's not what we're gonna be doing going forward. We can move on from that. Look at a Nintendo Direct for the next Mario game. So I guess that's good for us hardcore gamers that kind of were a little fearful that that's where Nintendo's going. They're gonna change the mobile market. One thing that Bungie's a little concerned about chasing is us, I guess, or I don't know. I don't know if that's a segue. Help me, Dalan. Bungie admits that they quote unquote missed the mark with some aspects of Destiny 2's Lightfall, and these are quotes from Eurogamer that they say, in a candid update on the official website, the studio said that whilst the expansion quote surpassed Bungie's sales expectations, it's clear the initial experience we delivered on day one didn't provide the full clarity we originally planned for when we set out creating Lightfall. We've taken a broad look at community feedback across the game since launch and have been working to address several areas in the coming weeks while also forging ahead on content for our upcoming season, said game director Joe Blackburn. Let's get into the things we're building and improving in response to your input on Lightfall so far. Well, you know what? We'll go to Luis on this first, I feel. Luis, I want to ask you, how do you feel about, I don't know, is this the one you've gotten into day one, I suppose, or
this is the first one I got into day one, yeah. But I played the last season pretty heavily though.
Okay, so how do you feel about Lightfall? I guess, and we have talked about it a little bit, but how do you feel about it and kind of what the director has been talking about? You kind of agree with what he's saying?
The interesting part about that entire blog post is they didn't, not that I saw, I only read like the first half. They didn't mention story at all. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of had issues about, like, well, the story's kind of the most lackluster. Even though you do get this new ability and a new planet and all that stuff, the story kind of, it like comes in quick and then it's gone. And you're just left with like, you're waiting there like, okay, I guess I'll wait for Iron Banner or whatever, you know? But yeah, it seems like they were kind of aware of, because I remember I haven't played a lot of Destiny. But when I started this new season, and especially on Neomuna, the new planet, I remember thinking to myself, like, why am I always getting attacked? There's like not a moment in time where I can just sit in a corner and like, where can I find this chest? Like, I'm looking at the map and I'm getting shot at. And that was apparently done on purpose. They wanted to make you feel like you were never safe. There's a war constantly going on. Enemies were more difficult in this one because they wanted it to feel like an invasion of the planet. So they're like, sorry, we fucked up. We tried something new, and we need to make things a lot squishier. We don't want to make them bullet sponges. We need to make things easier. So that was kind of the gist of what I read.
Yeah.
From the first half, they're gonna make leveling up easier. They're gonna make enemies easier. They're gonna, they've already done some of these things. But yeah, I mean, I agree with them. It's interesting that I didn't see them talk about like the actual content.
Well, and I think
of Lightfall too much.
And I think like the story, as the last couple seasons that me and Dalan have played, it's kind of like I've told him, it's like the story really is in the seasonal content. That's where the story has gone, right? Week to week, they're like, here's the latest story part of it, and enjoy the next week. Wait till next week, or so you get like a big chunk of story, kind of setting up what's gonna happen in the next year or so, and then the seasons are really giving you like the minutia or kind of like different stories within that. And then the raid is a big part of it as well. That's like, the raids have always been kind of like a little separate from it as well, right? Like you get a full story outside of the raids, but the raids are kind of a big part of it. So I think they've leaned a lot into like either they give you a lot of the gameplay and a big chunk of the story, but if you want more, if you want to delve deeper, it's the seasonal stuff, right? But I know we talked about it, that we were kind of like, this doesn't look that great, it's not that interesting. But I think the more we play it, the more we get used to like the strand ability and all that. It's like, okay, I don't know if you start to find the quote unquote genius in it, but maybe you start getting more used to it, like, right, this is what Destiny is right now at the moment until we get some more. But what do you think, Dalan? Are you feeling the same as a director? Or?
Well, in a few respects, when it comes to the players feeling that the story is lackluster, I mean, The Witch Queen was by itself an excellent story. Obviously, for me, not as good as Beyond Light, and definitely not Forsaken, because Forsaken was like the GOAT in this particular case. But having Lightfall come right after The Witch Queen, and everybody was highly anticipating it, and they gave it a price tag of $99 if you wanted everything. We were like, this better be good, have plenty of content, last a while. But the content didn't last as long as people had expected. They didn't have like major set pieces that occurred like in Witch Queen or in Beyond Light. And in this particular case, they actually had a good number of cinematics this time. They even have cinematics for the seasonal stuff, as you've actually seen yourself. And yeah, pushing some of that story to the seasonal stuff will keep people coming back to see a little bit more story. But one of the problems that it had, at least in regards to story and content-wise, is, I don't know if you remember, Carlos, but in Destiny 1, we would go to places and they would reference things that you had no idea how to actually get this information for. It turned out you had to go to the Bungie website to read up on the books that you might have earned.
Mm-hmm. Which you
That's
still gotta
been doing-
Google a bunch of shit, man. That hasn't necessarily changed. It's
No,
still
but
kind of par for the course.
Now all of that extra story and lore is in those tiny little lore books that you could earn.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of information. I'm like, why are you writing all this out? You could make cutscenes and stories with all of these.
Well, it's a lot of work. It's not just like just make all these cutscenes, right? They want to give you a lot of lore to dig into, but it takes a lot.
I'm not saying
to,
making them all cutscenes, but you have all this information that you could literally make more cutscenes and more side quests for, and actually make some compelling side stories to go do. I know that they're actually working on a couple of planets that they're actually going to be releasing in the future. And obviously, Neo Luna had its difficulty spike, especially with the Thresher one-shotting almost everybody. Do you know what the Thresher is, Carlos?
Yeah, so sure.
I'm asking you a question.
It doesn't matter, Dan. Whatever it is, it's an OP weapon. It's an OP weapon that's destroying shit. They gotta balance it out. That's the moral of the story there, Dalan.
The moral of the story is that they had to balance out all of their damage issues. But for me, the thing that that they still have a major issue with, even aside from all of that, and yes, part of this is the fact that you got to look shit up online to actually find things. Their onboarding process is still trash. I read that whole article, Luis. They did not confront the story whatsoever. Yeah. They only confronted things like accommodations, exotics, and how those are going to work in the future. But they didn't actually confront whether or not they're going to be adding additional story, fixing story.
So they kind of they wanted to say, we hear you guys. But fuck, man, like, this is what we got. But it's funny that it's the first time I think they've actually come out and, like, spoken to us this way. It's like, oh, we know you guys are disappointed. Because I think before it's been kind of like, oh, this is coming. Don't worry. We're going to change that. We're going to tweak that. But I feel like maybe the commentary or the feedback has been so great towards them that they're like, okay, we have to face this head on, but also kind of like avoid the landmines, and like let's not blow up over them.
I do want to say this about Bungie when it comes to this, is that in regards to their community, it's the only one that I've actually seen where the company will respond with plenty of feedback. Like, they are active with their gaming community, which is part of the reason why they still have such a huge fan base.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of it is also the fact that they were saying, what did they say? They said it was like the biggest selling, or well, at least they said surpassed Bungie sales expectations. So whatever they expected, it surpassed that, and they were like, okay, we have a nice fan base. Let's let them know that we're here. That we're here.
And the highest number of concurrent players.
Yeah, so they kind of stick around. So look, we're there. We just beat the raid, and we'll talk about it and what you've been playing a little teaser for you guys over there. I think there's plenty more. We still got another dungeon coming, right, for this season that we haven't gotten. And I'm already like, ooh, let's go back through the ones that we haven't touched on.
No, I think we got our dungeon for this season. We did. But I'll get into that later.
All right. Look, we'll go into the next thing, and of course, we'll talk about what you've been playing a little bit as far as the raid and everything else we've been getting down with on Destiny. But for now, there was some leaked footage of a potential Jet Set Radio and Persona 3 remake popped up. This was at a Twitter at Akia Angelic. I'm I didn't really look at it. I saw little glimpses of it, but I was like, whatever, man. I can't get too hyped up about this. Even as much as I love Jet Set Radio, if it comes out, it comes out. Otherwise, it's like, that's fine. And apparently some of these are like prototypes or something like that. They even had an earlier version of Sonic Frontiers, which is kind of like maybe give some credence that of course they've been working on, but it's like, of course they've been working on it. It's just they have to justify going full in on a production of a remake or something like that. But what do you think about this, Dalan? That there might be either Just a Radio or maybe more for you Persona, I'm assuming. A remake of a Persona? Or...
Hey, I'm down for a remake of Jet Set Radio to have upgraded graphics and better controls, apparently. But Persona 3, that was a damn near perfect game by itself. That's one of those things, like, you could re-enhance it, you could update it to try to actually look smoother on newer consoles. But the moment that they move away from turn-based and try to go into something else and try to change the mechanics of the game, It's no longer Persona 3. You might as well make a.
I mean, we don't know that's what they're gonna do, right? If they are making a remake, that we don't know. You're making an assumption there, right?
It might be another dance game. It might be Persona 3 Strikers. I don't know.
There you go. So we'll see. That just kind of rumors out there that's going around. Real quick, sort of related to Sonic or to Sega, really. But the murder of Sonic the Hedgehog racks up 1 million downloads in 5 days. So if you guys are still kind of interested, that's kind of, and apparently is like the best critically reviewed Sonic game in a while, so that's kind of interesting that a little side note type of thing on April Fools, they're racking up downloads and people are like, the reviews are outstanding for it apparently. So I don't know, maybe it's a slight indignation or like a, what do you call it, a condemnation or whatever of Sonic, like the status of Sonic games, that a random little April Fool's joke type of game is like, people are like, this is amazing. Might be even a little bit better.
Hey man, with that popularity, you think Sega's going to make a comeback with a new console?
It's rough, man. I think it's hard. I think it's hard to get into the... I would like them to, of course, but it's tough, man. It's hard enough for Microsoft to get these deals across. Like, imagine like some upstart, like... Yeah, we're Sega. I mean, because Sega would be an upstart, even though we know they have history, blah, blah. But it would take so much money, so much... No, man, I don't think it's going to happen. I'm sorry, Dalan. I'm sorry to break your dreams like that. The next thing, though, I hope this is kind of in line with whatever you're dreaming about, right? But Tekken 8 will feature crossplay. Director Katsuhiro Harada said. He said there are still some problems left, but it will be possible. Is this something you care about, Dalan, that Tekken 8 will have crossplay?
Hey, first off, shut up and take my money.
Oh,
Second off,
okay, fair.
when it comes to crossplay, that just means there's more people for me to fight online if they actually get that up and running properly. I'm not sure if, like, based on the way that they've said it and when they had planned on, or at least their intention of releasing it later this year, I don't know if they'll be able to make it in time. I don't know how close they are to actually getting that whole crossplay thing going. But, yeah, just give me more people to fight and see how well I do up against them. Maybe I'll get my ass kicked all day, but I'm still going to try.
Yeah, you need people to play your dollar combo, right? A little dollar combo somewhere.
Hey, man, it's not Virtual Fighter 6 whenever the hell that happens.
I want it in my life. But yeah, Tekken 8, the way the quote is said is basically kind of like, it's not at launch. It's not a launch day thing, right? It's like, hey, we'll get it to you. Don't worry, Dalan. We'll get you more people to fight. Real quick, and then we'll move on to what you've been playing. It's been a light week as far as news is concerned. Quantum Break is coming back to Game Pass. It was actually removed due to some licenses being expired. So to me, that's just kind of an interesting little side note on, like, we have a bunch of these games on Game Pass that some of them are just because of the license. It's like a 1 year thing, like what was it, Deathloop? Deathloop was kind of an exclusive on PlayStation for a year, and then it showed up on Game Pass, right? That kind of thing. So this one's kind of interesting, the fact that there was some licenses, I'm guessing music or whatever it was, that they're like, we got to remove it from Game Pass. And it's a first party published game for Microsoft, right? So it kind of makes it a little more interesting. I was like, you guys didn't set this up? But yeah, Quantum Break is coming back, which is from, I think it was Remedy, right? Or has history of Remedy.
It was Remedy.
Yeah, it was Remedy. So it was a pretty good game. And I believe Lance Reddick is in that too. I believe he has like a voice in there. Yeah.
So Martin Hack, apparently.
Okay, so if you guys haven't played that game, it's actually a pretty decent game. It's one of those, like, they really wanted to push it to, like, I think they have live action scenes in it, so it's kind of one of those games where, like, that's weird, right? Like, instead of a 3D animated movies and stuff, it's like live action stuff. But hey,
they pulled it out kind of nicely. It was a pretty decent game.
Yeah, it's not actually. If you like this one, Luis, you won't go back to Alan Wake though or anything like that. It's kind of in the same vibes,
Nah, okay. The Xbox I bought came with Quantum Break and Alan Wake bundled into it. I tried Alan Wake and I was like, these controls I can't.
You didn't like controlling the flashlight? You didn't like controlling the flashlight and to kill the enemies you have to flash on them?
I didn't make it past the first level, man.
Okay, reasonable. I wonder the remake. Maybe I give it a shot. I don't know. The thing is, I'm okay with the rose tinted glasses, and I played it back then, and it was fine. I don't know if I want to play like the remaster that recently came out, but I don't know. Maybe at some point I was like, I'll give it a shot. Let's see if it still holds up. We're gonna go into what you've been playing, and of course, like we teased a little bit earlier, Dalan, we finally beat the raid. It only took us 7 months, but me and you, it wasn't our entirety of our group. The hope that it was gonna be me, you, Luis, Jonathan, Brian, and Jeremy, and we at some point Dalan said, you know what? You know, I'm coloring up the language. This wasn't verbatim what Dalan said, right? But it was close to it. He basically said, "Fuck those guys. We're gonna do it live. Me and you, Carl. Let's find a group." Not verbatim. I'm just making it colorful a little bit, you know. But
you twisted the shit out of that.
I just said
that's what he said.
I said I made it more colorful. It wasn't verbatim, but you said let's just me and you go and do it, and we did.
Hey, I'll give you a closer to verbatim. I said, Luis, let's me and you go do it. And then Carlos said, you know what? Fuck Luis, let's go.
Oh, all of a sudden, that's what I said. Pull up the receipts. Anyways, whatever it was, we were supposed to do it with the gang. But we found a random group, a great group, by the way.
You got it real low there, Luis. That's the problem. I know you're saying.
We found a good group to do it with.
Low.
I know there was one Vietnamese man, Dalan, right, that we played with. That I think he might be in trouble with his wife over there because we had him turn on his AC. As somebody's like, I can't turn on my AC. My wife will kill me. I was like, dude, just do it, man. Are you not your own man? And at some point he said, it's fucking hot. And he went to turn on the AC for one of the encounters we were on. And then after we were successfully finished the encounter, he came back. He was like, I got to turn off the AC, guys. But I think it was good, Dalan. I like the ruined beauty of it, if you will, kind of the world, right? That is kind of a little weird. And then we get to the end boss. I hope it's not too much of a spoiler, but this man is just made of meat. There is no skin on him.
Chunky boy.
It was very weird, but I liked it. What did you think of the encounters, Dalan? How'd you feel about this raid compared to maybe others?
This raid compared to others, especially for the ones that we have done, my problem with this particular raid is that there were only like two bosses. Like one was a mini boss, and then there was the boss. The rest of it was just mechanics and waves of enemies, really. And when it came down to it, once we got the mechanics down and we were figuring out how to really stave off the enemies, as long as you protect your people that's running, Carlos. It turned into a super easy raid. This was probably one of the fastest raids that we've ever done. Because normally when we do a raid, we have to go through like 6 or 7 groups before we make it through the
Yeah. And by the way, the raid is called Root of Nightmares before we forget to call it out by name, right? But I think part of it is luck too, man. I know when we got started, I was like, the idea was to run it on a Thursday night and then Friday I'm off. So I was like, let's do the first part on Thursday, Dylan, and then Friday we'll finish it. And we finished it on Thursday. I think part of it is luck. I think part of it we did get a good group because it was like half of us didn't know what we needed to do, while there was like one good guy, like good leader that was like, all right, we're gonna do this and this, and we just happened to kind of luck out, man. So I think sometimes that's kind of that's sort of the unfortunate part of this, right? That in a way, a lot of games will it'll be timed or it'll be like running you towards the end boss, right? Like you're gonna get to it. It's just a matter of just keep fighting. But Destiny is like, you will not accomplish this goal. You are not doing it how you're supposed to, right? So the fact is, if you get a good group, you're able to beat it. And like I was saying, the plan was let's get through the first part. But I saw so much progress in the group that I was like, Dalan, I said 1 a.m., but sure, I'll take it till 3:15 a.m. when we finished it. And I was like, okay, it was a good group. I saw some progress, and we did it. But I think it's it's a bit on the shorter side of things, right?
It's not even on the shorter side.
You feel like it's not as short? I feel like it's close to Wrath of the Machine, which Wrath of the Machine was amazing, though. But maybe Wrath of the Machine.
They need to bring that back.
But
they brought back King's Fall, but not Wrath of the Machine.
But I feel like Wrath of the Machine was lengthwise close to this one. It was just there was more stuff. You had to hit monitors. There was more bosses. There was a Zamboni at some point, right? There was just so much stuff happening. But yeah.
the Zamboni was just a big old train thing that you're trying to like put together so you could try and destroy it. And it was like 3 different phases.
Yeah, so I think in length, right, it's close to that one. Right, because I think the longest...
I still feel like that was significantly longer than this. Yeah. Because in reality, if you get a good squad together, you can do that first part in like 25 minutes maybe. Like, you do the second part, especially if you've got a good squad, another maybe 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then you get to the last minute, then you do the next 2 sets. You could beat that whole raid in maybe 2 hours. That Zamboni raid, you're going to be there even if you get a good squad together, because people will die or mess up or drop things
Yeah.
It took like 4 hours minimum.
But
we had to space it out over 2 days.
But yeah, this was it's good, man. It's good content. It's the high end content of Destiny. You always want to definitely get through it. So I know, Luis, we're gonna get you through it one of these days. We will.
Hey, man,
I like how Luis has since given up. He's like, whatever. He's like, whatever,
no,
man.
He was doing God of War. That was one of the things. I offered him the play, but he was doing God of War.
Destiny 2 raid finally got a game tape solved. I'm satisfied. I know Dalan, Luis, he was in the chat talking about, are we gonna raid again? Like the day after, like, is this man not satisfied? Can he not be satisfied with beating the raid for like a week, or a couple days?
No.
But
dude, I'm trying to get Luis to a raid.
All right. Well, there we go.
I'm gonna keep asking until we get him through something.
It's low on my priority list. Just don't get your hopes up, man.
Just fair.
No, I'm not gonna get my hopes up, but I will continue to ask.
That's fair. So Destiny 2 raid done, completed. The other thing is, then we finally suckered up. I'm gonna call it suckered up, but we paid $50 whole for the expansion pass version of the Nintendo Online. For what, Dalan? For Pokemon Puzzle League. I think that's the major part. You said there's just more content on there. For me, I was just waiting for an excuse, and you just gave me the perfect excuse. I really only wanted to play Pokemon Puzzle League, and that thing is amazing, man. The online's a little rough, kind of. You really have to have a pretty good stable connection, and you can get the claps going as well. You can get the little claps going online. But one of the cool things, I guess, of the Nintendo 64 online is you can do 4-player online. It shows you the little dots on there, whereas on SNES and NES it was just 2 players. So this one's 4 players. I don't think Pokemon Puzzle League is 4 players. We might have to kind of test that out, but I don't think it is. This is one of those Planet Puzzle Leagues that we've kind of been on it the last couple of days, right? It's been like, are we playing some matches of this?
Hey, you found out that they had that 3D version of it. You were like, ooh, this is a whole new dynamic. It's another dimension to this game. And yes, that's part of what made Planet Puzzle League or Pokemon Puzzle League so big. But it's not just Puzzle League that I got it for. I mean, I was playing Mario Kart 64. I know that Paper Mario was on there. They had Gold. Well, obviously, I said GoldenEye, or at least I believe I did if I didn't already. They got Win Back. You know how I like my Win Back.
I don't know that, but now I do, I guess.
Hey, man, you had no argument with me about Win Back. But then they got the Game Boy Advance, and they got some good games on that. The Super Nintendo, they've been building on that for a while now, and they even have the Sega Genesis last I checked.
Yeah, they have all that. It's still a lot, I think, to ask, but for me, I'm a sucker for Puzzle League and online Puzzle League, so it's kind of like, as long as you have it, Dalan, I'm gonna keep, I'll keep it up. I'll keep up this.
If it was like $10 a month or $14 a month, I'd be like, nah, it's not. This is not Game Pass. This is not Game Pass.
They're trying to get it up there, though.
$50 divided over 12 months, that's not too bad.
Oh, now you know math, huh, Dalan? Now you know how a monthly rate works, huh? Okay, reasonable.
No, I don't. I gotta learn my interest rate for the year. So don't worry about it.
Well, look, we're on Planet Puzzle League. That 3D mode is amazing because it definitely is one of those things like, where is this thing stuck at now? And you have to go in a 360-degree turn where it's like to find where your blocks are stuck at. But we've been
Why is this thing floating in the air? I need to get rid of this ring.
Where is the one piece that is blocking this whole situation? So
what was the phrase we kept saying? What's holding this up?
Yes, so you'll definitely be wondering what's holding this up in 3D Puzzle League. But look, we'll move on to what Luis has been playing. Luis, what have you been getting down with, man? Let us know.
Well, Dalan already kind of alluded to it, but God of War Ragnarok, I decided it was finally time to beat it. I didn't realize how far into the game. I know Dalan said I made it pretty far into the game with fighting the dog boss. I didn't realize I made it that far in Give Me God of War difficulty. Like, I was pretty damn close to the end. I was right there. But yeah, coming back, I stopped at that boss battle, and then I hadn't played for like a week or two.
Yeah,
so it was rough. It was rough coming back to, like, because it not only just regular encounters, but I always have to refigure out the timing of everything when I came back to the game, and then just coming back to the game on that boss, I was like, I need to bring this difficulty down.
I've seen enough. I've seen enough.
Hey, I was playing the game on normal, and I stopped playing it for like 3-4 weeks, and I came back. I was like, man, I don't even remember how to throw my axe. It was like a really hard learning curve, because when I loaded up my game, I was in the middle of a fight. Like, regardless of which direction I went, I was gonna get into this fight. If I did not beat this fight, I was not going to move on with the game. And it was like some of the hardest enemies in the game, so I had to learn every move again.
I mean, it's like a lot of games, right? If you haven't played it in a good while and you're trying to dip into it 10 hours worth or whatever, I think I was trying to do that with this one, I think, when I replayed it last year to kind of catch up to Ragnarok, right? And I just started it over, man. I was like, I'm just going back to the beginning. So at least you just drop down the difficulty. And I'm sure at that point you're like, oh, this is easy. This is a piece of cake now that it's doable, right?
So did you actually end up beating the game then?
Yeah, I beat it, I think the day after you guys finished, or Dalan asked me to do the raid. I don't remember what day that was. I probably beat it on Sunday.
If you're not struggling with raids, you can definitely get a lot of things accomplished gaming wise if you're not spending hours and hours. I think that's why it feels like such an accomplishment, Dalan, that it's like, okay, now I can exhale and like play something else. Like you, Luis, what else have you been playing instead of doing the raid with us?
No, but I dropped it to Give Me Grace, which is not their easiest difficulty. It's the one above that. And I gotta say, it did take a lot of what made the game satisfying to me, the game being that easy.
You should just put it on normal.
A huge part of it wouldn't have made a difference, honestly, for me, whether it were on normal, easy, whatever, if it weren't on Give Me God of War, because that it may be similar to what you're talking about, but like that feeling of like when you finally beat a boss that you've been stuck on Give Me God, it made you feel like fucking Kratos, like I'm a god, I'm a badass, like I finally did it, right? Versus here, I was just like, all right, let me just whack everything with my hammer, my axe. All right, fuck, let's try the spear this time. Let's try the blades of chaos. Like there wasn't any sort of
satisfaction
anymore for me. It was just like, just hit everything. As compared to Give Me God of War difficulty, but still, I like the story. I did leave a second save file, so I can always go back to the point of where I was at the boss battle and restart it from there.
But do you think you would?
I think I will, because I want that trophy.
But at the very least, you kind of got out of the way that I beat it. I know the story, right?
I beat it. I know the story, and I can move on to Modern Warfare 2, which is a game I never got. I finally got it on Thursday, started it on Friday, I think, and I was like, all right, I saw enough of this game to go back to God of War. But I think I'm like. Well, because on the PlayStation, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but it shows you like how far along you're on the game percentage-wise now in the main menu. So Modern Warfare 2 says I'm at like 73%.
It's not a long game. It's not a long game.
I like it, dude. I like the
campaign.
game.
It's like 6 hours or something.
Yeah. If that, man, I think it 4.5. A raid, Dalan. A raid worth. But
yeah, no, I love it. I love the story so far. It's not. It's a Call of Duty game. It's not anything too crazy. They're trying to stop some bad guy or whatever, but I do kind of like the scenarios they're putting up, the different levels. I like that they're all kind of slightly different. There's like each one that has something kind of unique about it a little bit. Like whether you're controlling the AC-130, whether you're like that one map that was on the endless like track highway where you had to like hop from one car to the other and all that. So yeah, I like that they're all kind of different. Some during the day, some at night. One where you're sniping, one where you're sneaking. I am playing it on whatever like normal is. I can't even, because I used to play those games on hardened. I can't even imagine what that's like, because I'm dying left and right already on regular. So
yeah. And it's funny, like the thing is the campaign, and you're talking about the campaign primarily, right?
Yes,
I'm sure you'll dip into multiplayer at some point, but it's funny, like the people that buy these games year in and year out quickly dismiss the campaign, and people that sort of say they like campaign games, like it's shitty, it's just a gallery shooter or whatever. It's like, but it's like it doesn't get enough respect. I feel like it doesn't. I don't know. I don't know necessarily whose fault that is, but it definitely doesn't get enough respect. I feel like how good the campaign is, how high of a quality it really is. I understand it's 3, 4, 5 hours long, but it's a very high quality. The shooting always feels great, and they put you in these like weird little scenarios that's like, all right, that's cool. I like that. That was interesting. Anything else on that, Luis, or are you good on that front?
I guess on that sort of similar note, it is interesting that you have to like really work. It took me a very long time to be like, how do I get to this campaign from this menu? Like, it's so hidden. It's like your last option on the list to like, okay. Then I finally click and it goes, you don't have the campaign pack. Okay, let me download the campaign pack.
That's what I was gonna say, yeah.
And then it downloads. You don't have the other campaign pack. I was like, oh my god.
You need like 3 of them. Dude, it's like 3 of them. Yeah, it's like really, it's not even on the disc, dude. It's all the multiplayer shit. All that stuff is on there, but yeah, not the campaign stuff.
So that's it.
So it's a little wacky. That even Call of Duty themselves, even the developers are like, we know you don't. That's the secondary thing, and to me, it's like that's the first thing. That's what I want. But I'm sure you'll stick with it. You'll have fun with it. I like the story in it. The Spanish is pretty decent if you've heard some of the Spanish in it. You know?
Yeah,
Which you know what? I'll put it on wax. I'm gonna be surprised when Spanish isn't good on stuff. I'm gonna call that shit out because I feel like Spanish has been pretty good in a lot of things.
You make it sound like people are gonna forget how to speak Spanish.
No, it's just they put people. No, they put actors in Dalan. They put voiceover people that like their Spanish is terrible, and they're supposed to be native language Spanish speakers, and it's terrible. So I feel like it's been really good, especially like if you ever watch Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul. That Spanish is incredible in those shows, by the way. And in this game, it's also amazing. So I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna be surprised when it's bad now. I'll put it on wax. I'm gonna call it out when it's bad.
The bar has been pretty high over the past few years, I think, at this point.
Which is good. The other thing is, I'll just say a couple quick things. The GOAT, of course, Metroid Prime Remastered. I'm still having fun with that. I've been having a little back and forth with my child, especially since we got this online pack, Dalan, that I have to check that I've saved. Because there's big chunks in that game where like, all right, child, let me make sure I get to a save point. And the last save point I was trying to get to, I got murdered. And I was like, the pressure of you wanting to play Mario Kart with your friend made it so I died. And I had to replay like a 20-minute chunk for like 3 times. I finally did it. It's still amazing. It's still fun. So I'm still playing through that game, and it's so good. Resident Evil 4, I think I'm about like in the 12th chapter, 13th chapter, and that game is still... It's still good, man. It's still damn good. Resident Evil 4, they did a great job in it. There's a whole bunch of little collectibles everywhere left and right. I'm glad I'm following a guide. I know you were upset at me last time, but I do not care. All right, I want all the little collectibles. The challenge for me is like, I don't know if I dip into hard mode. I might, because some of the trophies are a little wacky where it's like, make sure no one gets on this elevator. It's like, fuck this trophy, man. I hate this so much. They always jump on this elevator. They just always manage to get there. There's little wacky ones that I keep overcoming, right? And then I found out that there's a shooting range that I'm like, I need to beat this if I'm ever gonna like try to actually platinum it, so I need to go through it. But I'm having fun with it, man. It feels great. It plays great. All the little different weapons you can get and the little gameplay strategies to it. It's pretty nice. It's pretty good. So if you guys haven't checked that out, make sure. And I think Luis, you said you might dip into this, from what I understand.
This might be the first time I played Resident Evil 4 with this version that came out.
Okay. It's nice. Now, if you can wait till I figure out whether I'm a platinum it or not, you could just borrow my copy. You
bought this game?
Yeah, so it could be a week.
So you could just give me Resident Evil 4 and then you keep The Last of Us Part 1.
Oh, all of a sudden. That's an interesting proposition. We'll go off wax on that one. But I have that copy. If you want that copy back, we are done with it. I will get it back to you.
No, yeah,
we're just bartering here online. Don't worry about me.
So we'll end it with this. We'll end it with Dalan. What have you been playing, sir? You put a little goat next to this. I don't know if I agree. All right, you put Dead Space remake goat. Come on, Dylan. What are we doing? It's great. I'm sure it's great. It's one of the better games out there. But come on.
Hey, man, I put it on wax before. Is that games used to be good, and this was definitely one of those. Like ever since Dead Space came out, I have not seen another space survival horror game like this. I mean, I was waiting on Callisto Protocol. Hoping that would be good. you can call it what you want, but that game did not hold up as well as I wanted it to.
Yeah, it didn't. Yeah,
all right,
it didn't.
It did not. And obviously, Metroid is its own monster, so I can't even compare the two. But all the other Space Odyssey games that have come out like this, I always think, man, I just got to compare this to Dead Space because that was the one where it was creepy.
You got to compare Dead Space remake to Dead Space, Dalan? Is that what you just said right now?
No, I'm talking about comparing like the original Dead Space to things like Aliens Isolation and things like that.
Okay.
But just bringing back Dead Space, even as a remake, it still holds up. It still holds up on the feeling that it gives you. I was playing it before we started recording today, and I went to an elevator, and the lights shut down, the power went off, had to turn on my flashlight, things started crawling up behind me, and I was just sitting there shooting all my bullets and missing every single time because they were moving way too much.
Yeah.
But it's still a super excellent game. I think I mentioned before that they really make you use that flashlight. They definitely up their game with the sound effects to actually make it have more of an ambience. And every so often, when you're playing a video game and the music kicks in and you expect something to happen, every so often the music just kicks on and nothing's happening, but I'm looking for it.
Yeah.
So the game will get you. It even though it does not scare me, it will still make me jump and put me on the edge of my seat ready to shoot some stuff. But there's nothing to shoot sometimes.
Yeah. Callisto Protocol, that's one of the things that did really well. The audio, like, making you feel like something was about to happen, and then the music kind of the audio kind of came in and out like, oh shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Callisto Protocol came from a studio quality background, right? It just didn't completely come together, right? But there's definitely, like, the quality is there for that game as well, right? Graphically, like, sound-wise.
The beauty and the jump scares of Callisto Protocol was there, but the gameplay itself, I mean, it's a game. So if you don't have the gameplay, you're missing the game.
Interesting. But it's funny you bring up, like, the whole, like, I was missing every shot. That happens to me in Resident Evil. So I feel like if it's not a fear, if it's not, like, a fear of, like, jump scares and they're really kind of getting under your skin, there's got to be something to the fact that you're like, I get my gun out and I'm aiming. It's like I can't hit them.
Swarms and they're coming at you, and you can't hit them. Like, I want to get a headshot, but he's bobbing and weaving like son of a.
And they move a little slower in Resident Evil, man. So the fact that it's like I'm over here like still missing, like stop. But see, Resident Evil, I think it's part of the gameplay. Like Dead Space, I think it's a little more sharp, a little like quicker to draw your gun. In Resident Evil, man, like say I got the bolt gun. And like I was like, all right, let me pull it out. I see the enemy right there, like setting up for like 5 seconds. It's like 5 seconds of set.
No, Carlos, they use the haptic feedback for Dead Space. Yeah. So I feel it when I fire too many bullets, and then it takes forever to reload. Especially if you're using the force gun. I don't know if you remember that, but he like ejects a cell out of it. He loads a new cell, and he's got to relock it, and it seemingly takes so long.
And like stop it.
Do
you also feel the wind when that's happening?
Oh, have you
no, we're not at that level in Dead Space yet. But hopefully in Dead Space 2, you feel the wind when the freaking window breaks out, and you're about to fly out into space.
Oh no, that wind, we're gonna feel it soon with Final Fantasy 16. I'm ready to feel that wind, dude. I'm ready to feel the wind.
By the way, that's all over the place in Modern Warfare 2. I was feeling the wind like crazy in that game.
Yeah. Hey, hell yeah. That's all we'll say. For Salient Points number 106, this is Carlos Macias, the master of, you said, the man crates or something.
The Caveman Club.
The Caveman Club. Macias, thank you for joining us this week. Dalan Kirkwood.
Pretty well.
Dalan Kirkwood from Up in the Mountains, thank you very much, sir, for joining us. And Luis Mendez on the Wheels of Steel. We'll see you next time. Dan, you looking nice in HD over there. You're doing all right. Okay, bob and weave, Dalan. Is that how you bob and weave? Okay. Oh, now you got the dukes up? Okay.
Hey, that's the bob and weave. You talking about the bob and weave.
You didn't have the dukes up at first. You would have gotten laid out, man. You would have gotten laid out.
Hey, man, I could always do the Muhammad Ali.
Okay.
Not quite like a butterfly, but
definitely not as graceful as a butterfly.
Hell no, my chair will not let me do that shit. This is way too early.
We'll leave it at that.